Good evening, welcome everyone to ERL for round number 7, tier 2 tonight, this evening, and we are back with obviously the second race of 2024 in tier 2, or well, tier 2 which is technically a bit of a higher tier than tier 1 in terms of pace regards, but nonetheless, I'm going to go through the drivers' standings. Obviously, not as close as Tier 1 by any stretch of the imagination. We got Virgo, that's a new driver, of course. Vigo, sorry, who currently races for AlphaTauri on 146 points, 65 points ahead of his closest championship rival of Storms, who is also here in Williams, doing a good job for them in second place. Then we got Nix in third, Unlimited Danny in fourth, and Girthquake in fifth. In fact, to be fair, from second down to fifth, there is only a 20-point gap between them drivers, and in fact, it is very much closer from there on inwards. So overall, whilst it might not be exactly close between the top two, but from second down to, I'd at least say, down to about 14th, really, or 15th. It is a really, really close, condensed field with only 30 points separating everyone there, so, or 40 points, something like that. So it's a really, really close field spread from, obviously, second down to then, 15th, 16th, roughly. So, Arbeck back out on the track. Now, obviously, last night he lost his race. Would have been on track to probably win that. He is on the intermediates. I'm going to assume maybe he's got some sort of a qualifying ban, because a bit unusual to be going out on a set of the enters in qualifying, unless he's just doing purely a banker lap there, trying to get used to the track, because some drivers might do that ultimately. So, who's the first driver to do a lap? I believe it's Allmouth, who is a new driver around here. So he's going to be the first one to come across the line and to begin a flying lap around this, this Barcelona circuit, and he's already invalidated. So we'll go back then to the McLaren driver, I believe, Limited Danny, and also we got for the first time Hazard racing tonight, and I do know Hazard from a different league, so he's going to be someone to watch out for. First time I've seen him race, obviously, in this league, in ERL, of course, so welcome to him. So here we go then, for Limited Danny. I believe he's the next one. In fact, it might be Hazard, actually. Hazard was the next one, because he was behind behind Allmouth in 6th, who didn't do a lap, invalidated. So let's see what Hazard can do. He's going to be the first driver to set a bit of a banker overall. And here he comes then. Round turn 14. Then on this lap. Any predictions, please put them in the comments, and that would be great to know. Qualify quite tough here for Begduri. Yeah, overall will be. But Hazard kicks things off then with 11.9, so that's a very good first lap overall. But Tiny is going to go on to a 1:11.7, so he's gone ever so slightly quicker by 0.2. So very, very good laps already to begin this qualifying session off. Allmouth is on a new lap. Let's see where our championship leader is up to. He's invalidated, so Storms will be the next one to cross the line, and Storm goes into P3 then. So just Cold Pillow Also, another driver, actually, I kind of know from a different league. He's, you know, a new driver, I presume, also around here. So he's certainly going to be someone to watch out for. Usually races in Tier 2 in another league I race in. And good driver, obviously, so we'll have to see what he can do. Litz, the Mercedes teammate of Tiny, goes to P2 for now on 11.9, so very close, packed field. Let's see what Iron Kid can do. Vigo, we know, has invalidated. Iron Kid is in the AlphaTauri overall, so that's a bit of a different team for him. For pole, pretty much saying Vigo, Vancy go quicker. Overall, have to see what Vancy does. So here goes then Fine Kid. Kotos has retired. Obviously, Kotos, I believe, would be serving, therefore, a qualifying ban. Usually does do that in this, I believe, tier. But Iron Kid on to a 1:12.8, so that probably isn't the lap he's looking for overall. Certainly a bit off the pace there compared to the others, sort of in that lower end of the field at the moment in terms of the times. So next up is Mikey, and he's currently one of the only drivers, I believe, probably on a competitive lap at the moment, because every other car on my mini maps certainly seems to be going around a bit slower than what you'd expect if they're on a hot lap. So Mikey on to a 51.4, and he's in the middle, well, final sector now. So middle sector, 51.4, probably be about a 1:12.6 this lead territory. So between, I'm saying, Costa and Iron Kid at the moment, or somewhere in that region. And let's have a look. It exactly is in between them two. Splitting the two exactly, and goes P7. Tiny has now retired, so maybe he's feeling confident with that 1:11.7. Obviously, that is a solid lap time, to be fair. Dave predicts a 1:11.471. That's a very accurate pole lap time to be predicting there for Vigo. Obviously, Vigo is still yet to come. We know he attempted a lap on the mediums, failed to do that lap, so he probably backed out. So, right, next up, I think probably be Limited Danny. Let's see what he can do. Is still on mediums. Done a 13.0 for his first run. Is improving on this run by about a 1/10 of a second, so a 1/10 up in the first. That's a pretty decent improvement. Let's see what he can do then in the middle. This is really now more of a technical sector compared to previous of years. Obviously, used to have that final sector, which is still quite technical, but with those final two corners now being flat out, makes it a bit less of a technical challenge and makes it really one of the more shorter sectors on the entire lap. So into the more slower twisty stuff for the first bit of it, but from here on in, and you're pretty much flat out to the line, and for Limited Danny, he'll be coming back into the pits. So Vigo is, not Vigo, Iron Kid, that's Vigo's teammate, currently trying to improve on his time. Iron Kid down by 31,000, so it doesn't seem to be improving that much, if at all. So what can he do for the final sector? Let's see, as he will come around turn 14, slight lift through there, 7th gear. Personally, I'd say he should be taking that a gear slightly lower, only improves by 10 thousandths. Hazard comes into the pit, so he was not improving and invalidates there, so he's certainly having to back out of that. So now we're on board with Costa, who done a 1:12.6, does improve in the first sector by just over a 1/10 of a second. So what can he do in the middle sector? First lap time, obviously a 12.6, does have a bit of traffic in front of him, who is one of the AlphaTauris. Might be Vigo, might be Iron Kid overall, not too sure. He does have also AlphaTauri behind him, so currently is in a bit of an AlphaTauri sandwich, but there, irrespective, getting all out of shape, and that will see him abort this lap. So Right, Iron Kid is there, so Vigo is coming out. Vonsi is going to be the next one to cross the line and I believe start a lap, unless someone else has. Ralph, he's back this week, obviously. Hopefully he can have a good race. We know what he can do. And Vonsi's crossed the line on a 14.9, but does have a bit of traffic ahead of him. Ralph Perry, is he on a lap? By the looks of it, no. So next up then will be Lit, then we'll go back to Vigo, see what Vigo can do. Vigo still hasn't set a lap time, is on a set of the mediums. I believe he's still on a set of the mediums, so hasn't switched to the softs as of yet. So trying to get in that medium run first before he does do his final run, probably what will be on the soft tyre. Therefore step obviously quicker. Obviously tyre compounds would be like C4, C3 and C2 round this type of circuit. Usually Spain, I believe, they Pirelli usually do go for that medium range of tyres. They don't go for the harder compound and they don't go for the slower compounds, or for faster compounds. So, yeah. Lit cross the line now. Does improve his time by 0.2, but doesn't positionally get ahead of his teammate. So next up is Vigo, and he is flying along. So here comes Vigo, goes into P3 and was actually on softs. So 11.7 for Vigo on his first full run, just missing out on the front row and really just missing out on pole position, and we'll still have 2 more runs to go, or 1 more run to go at least then here. So Hazard crossing the line now to begin his 3rd run. This will probably be his final run of the session unless he can complete this lap plus get back on time for that final run. It would be pretty tight, a pretty tight turnaround and a squeeze to do so, but we'll have to wait and see. So first sector does improve by 29 thousandths of a second. If this is his final run, certainly improving on his lap time so far. Does have a bit of traffic ahead of him of the Red Bull, but we're not sure if Mikey, I presume that's Mikey as he's the only Red Bull in the qualifying, is on a hot lap too, who also would therefore not have to get out of the way if he is on a hot lap, and therefore he can commit to his lap, but so long he doesn't impede, that's the most important thing. So Hazard does improve in that middle by 88 thousandths, so 29 thousandths and 88 thousandths, so up by about just over a tenth of a second so far. What can he do in this final sector? He's going to get also a bit of a distant toe, potentially as well, which will help him out definitely. So through the final couple of corners, but unfortunately loses out too much in that final sector and doesn't improve. So for him, if he can get back round to the pits on time, he will have to start in P4, if not below. Currently, he's P4 at the moment. But yeah, obviously, these 2 drivers might have a really tight turnaround in terms of whether or not they can get back to the pits. There is still 5 minutes remaining, so they might be able to do that, to be fair to them both. So if they can get in that final run, but obviously we don't also know how many sets of tyres they've both used. If they've used the, 3, maybe they want to keep a set for the race, maybe they've got an extra set of mediums, and maybe they've used all 3 of their sets of softs. Usually you'd only have about 4 sets maximum of softs if you did want to go for 4 runs. So ultimately Hazard, in theory, by now could be on that 3rd set, and if he does decide go for a 4th run, then obviously would use up that 4th set, wouldn't have fresh softs for a race if that's the strategy he's gone for, potentially. And Costa has been disqualified from the session for turning around on the track there. That's a bit unfortunate for him, but definitely this will be the last lap then for Just Cold Pillow, who's just begun his lap, and he is going to now begin then his first flying run here, or final flying run, sorry, I was meant to say. And up the hill towards then turn 4 he goes, ends on first sector, and is up by 92 thousandths of a second. So a decent improvement by the Haas driver. Obviously, his teammates just been disqualified from the session for trying to turn around. So through the middle, car looks pretty stable through there. Currently, obviously, up the hill into turn 9. And at the end of the middle sector, is he still improving? The answer to that is no. Down by about a tenth, so unless he can pull something miraculous out in this final sector, it looks like P7 is where Just Cold Pillow is going to have to settle for. He is committing to this run, so this will be it for Just Cold Pillow, who comes across the line now, does improve but only by 37 thousandths, doesn't move him up the order, and he will remain in P7. Ralph Attari improving by over a tenth of a second, so he's really going along nicely. Can he move up the order? Obviously does have 2 cars in front of him. Let's have a wait and see. And in fact goes on to provisional pole. So Ralph Attari takes the provisional pole then away from right now Tiny, who is ahead of his teammate. So the Mercedes pair have been dislodged off the front row. They have been evicted effectively there by Ralph Attari, by the Ferrari driver, and then that is, well, bad news for them, because they'll have to start a little bit lower down than they probably were hoping for. And obviously Vigo is still yet to come, but he's taking a very long time to leave the pit lane. Hope he's not leaving it to the last straw, because obviously if he is, well, the clock is running down. I know it's only a 1 minute 11 lap, but you know, you don't want to leave it too long, I don't think. He's on out lap now, so he has eventually left the pit lane. Owen was on a lap but backed out, obviously, so his lap he decided to abort. So Allmouth is the next driver on a lap, and he's oddly on medium, so he's doing the opposite to everyone else right now. That is a very interesting, bold strategy from the Alfa Romeo driver, of course, from Allmouth, who, yep, obviously at this part of qualifying you wouldn't suspect anyone beyond the medium compound, but obviously Allmouth has decided mediums is the way to go. So let's have a look who's going to be then the first driver around, and I believe the first driver around is going to be Iron Kid to begin a lap here in the final part of qualifying with over 40 seconds remaining. So Iron Kid begins his lap. Limited Danny is literally just behind him, so he might be picking up some sort of advantage from that. And there goes Iron Kid off the circuit, so that surely is his lap over, and he's over 4 tenths down. So yeah, that's going to be very much near enough unrecoverable. Now, is Danny improving? Now, I would hope if, you know, Iron Kid, you know, isn't improving, he's jumped out of the way. Quite sensible thing to do there, because obviously being over half a second down, pretty much that is your lap done and dusted. You're not really going to be improving from much by there. But what can Limited Danny do? 51.4. Not actually sure what his sector time improvement was, but didn't really seem to show anything there. So we'll have to wait and see. Next up behind him, I believe, would be Owen, but Owen's crossed the line. Algary is off the track, and Limited Danny moves himself up into the top 10. So Mikey is next one. Where's Storms? Storms is there. Vigo's coming around the next corner, so we'll see what Storms is doing. He's down on his time. Vigo is also down on his time, so Vigo would need something miraculous here too, and if he's to get pole, he would need at least about over a tenth of a second. He's down by about a tenth of a second right now. Can he snatch pole at the grasp of qualifying? Nope, he cannot. So that is Vigo starting 4th. Mikey has spun around, so his lap's over. Algary is obviously without a front wing, so that certainly is lap done and dusted. So your pole sitter for then Tier 2 today will be Ralph Attari, followed by Tiny and Litz in second and third. Vigo, your championship leader, will start ahead of his main championship rival Storms, who is in fourth, and Storms in sixth, Hazard in fifth, Just Cold Pillow in seventh, then Mikey 8th, Algri in ninth, and Limited Danny rounds out your top 10 for today's Tier 2 qualifying around the circuit of Barcelona, Catalunya in Tier 2 today. So just going through the grid quickly once again. So Ralph Attari takes pole position from Tiny from Litz in P3. So it's a Mercedes 2 and 3 on the grid. Vigo AlphaTauri is in 4th, Hazard 5th. Then 6 Storm, 7th is Just Cold Pillow, Mikey in 8th. Then Algri in 9th. Limited Danny in 10th. Iron Kid in 11th. Owen in 12th. All Mouth No Smoke in 13th. Vancy in 14th. Kotos 15th, but with qualifying ban Arbegduri in 16th. And Kosa is in 17th, getting disqualified from the main session. So, predictions for a race, please let me know. Obviously, would be good to know. So, here we go then. It is go, go, go for the Spanish Grand Prix around the circuit of Barcelona, and it's a good start for your pole sitter, Ralph Attari, who's got away well. Vigo's also got away well. He's jumped up ahead of one of the Mercedes drivers into third, and followed behind. It looks like everyone's getting through cleanly through turns 1, 2, and 3 at the moment. However, having said that, we got a spin from Algri, the Alfa Romeo driver, and he's, I think, accidentally come together with Mikey then there, and that has caused the first safety car of the day, and it almost looked like a replica of Grosjean, I believe it was 2017 crash, if you go check out that one at the start of Spain. In fact, it might not have been 2017, it might have been 2018, can't remember, one of the two, when Grosjean lit up the rears at turn 3 and looked like pretty much a very similar replica spin for Algri there on the outside of turn 3, just going maybe offline onto the dirty side of the track and having a bit too much rear end to deal with, and basically, yep, got all out of shape, and ultimately, well, has caused Mikey accidentally to crash, which will see Mikey now out of the race. So, will we see anyone dart off into the pit lane? At the moment, the answer is no, but Limited Danny has actually come in to do so. So, has Limited Danny got any sort of damage? That's I suppose the big question, I don't know whether he was actually one of the cars involved. We will find out if he changes his front wing or not. Nope. So this is, just by the looks of it, a normal planned stop by the McLaren driver, opting to go onto the hards. Hazard also, by the looks of it, might have been involved with that because he's down into 14th. Not sure if he was also tangled up in that Algeria lap 1 incident, but if he was, then that's a bit of a misfortune for him. Obviously, Algeri's into the pits, unsurprisingly, going for mediums though. I will now get up the tyre graphic so you can see what all the drivers are doing in terms of the tyre war or tyre strategies. So, both of your top two are both gone for the soft, so them two have gone aggressive. There's possible race strategies. Soft to mediums, it's predicting, or soft to hards, whichever one you'd prefer. So, yeah, obviously, there's obviously the drivers, what they're doing. So top two, both on softs. Then behind them, two Mercedes, both going for the same strategy. They're not splitting the strategy and deciding to go for mediums. Then the two behind are going for softs. Then the two behind them going for mediums. Fonzie on softs, then mediums for Cosa, and two going on to the softs. Pretty much almost like Noah's Ark really at the moment with the strategy, isn't it, to be honest. They came in 2 by 2, hurrah, literally. So yeah, got a Noah's Ark theme going on out there with the tyre strategy. As Limited Danny back into the pits. Now, not sure why this is. Has he now got wing damage? Does look like this time it is for a nose change. So maybe the last time when he came in, he didn't obviously properly have the nose, well, set to that nose change. Obviously, you do have to change it sometimes manually. So the team will change your nose, your front wing, even if it's got minor damage. You have to try and, well, not minor damage, but more moderate damage. You do have to change it manually from within the car. Well, not within the car, but on the computer, whatever you want to call it, the R&D. So, lap 3. Obviously, I imagine we will get back to racing, and the green flag will be this lap for lap 4, and it will be then Ralph Attari's prerogative of when to go. Then here, it will be his duty to back up pack. Obviously, cannot go until the safety car reaches the pit. So from here, he's becoming now the de facto safety car. He obviously will have control of the ultimate pace. Obviously, under safety car, you can't go, until the safety car reaches the pits, but you can't go too erratic either. So you can't do any heavy or sudden braking changes then here. So he must keep it at a stable pace and consistent. He's not really letting the safety car go that far away, so it looks like he wants to get on with it pretty quickly potentially, and in fact he's gone now. So there we go, he's not really done any sort of tactics there to try and, catch anyone off guard, but Vigo's gone right with him, and here comes Vigo then right at him, then down into turn 1. Vigo on the inside, Ralph Attari on the outside, both of them side by side as we go through turn 1 and 2, both of them looking like they've kept it absolutely cleanly. And as we go into turn 3, Vigo on the inside, had the inside line into turn 3, obviously was on the outside for turn 2 and managed to get the move done into turn 3 and complete. But Ralph Attari dropping down a position, so that was a pretty I don't want to say poor restart, but didn't really play any games there on the restart to try and catch Vigo asleep. Vigo just went with him and, stayed right behind the gearbox of Ralph Attari. But here comes Tiny as well now on Vigo, on Ralph Attari, the Ferrari driver, and a little bit of contact maybe between the two, and in fact Tiny gives up the position by the looks of it potentially and opted to back out, and in doing so, kind of now put himself under a bit of pressure from Cold Pillow and from Storms, who are in 4th and 6th at the moment. So that's certainly not ideal. But Ralph Atari losing another position potentially here, and in the end does manage to hold out for this one, but that now sees Litz coming under pressure from the previous two that his teammate was coming under pressure from, Cold Pillow and Storm, who are now up into 3rd, and well, now about 3rd, as Cold Pillow goes round the outside into the braking zone of turn 5. Nice move done by him to get that one accomplished then. And Litz then will come a little bit under pressure from now Storms Williams here, as he will look to make up the position. Has a little look to the inside, in the end doesn't get the move done. But right now, a bit of a theme going on with Ralph Atari and both of the Mercedes both dropping back further and further. So it does look like the soft runners have sort of got things under a bit of control, but nonetheless, for the medium runners, they're going backwards. But you kind of expect that. But for Ralph Atari, he's really probably the corkscrew in the bottle at the moment, or cork in the bottle. And ultimately, someone needs to get past, well, the Ferrari man if they're going to make an impact in this race in terms of trying to catch Vigo. Obviously, Vigo's been near enough perfect up to this point in the championship. He's got a 65-point lead in the championship standings for a reason, and as you can see, Storm's there getting past now Lit, and now both Mercedes are down into 5th and 6th, so both of them two dropping further and further back. But now, in a way, this is probably ideal, because for Tiny, he hasn't really come under a bit of pressure for a few laps, so it doesn't look like Iron Kid is troubling him. And now for Litz, obviously, he's only got his teammate to contend with behind, and ultimately no one else really to worry about any further behind him. So both Mercedes might work a little bit together here, is what I'm indicating or inciting. As we see now, Cold Pillow going for a move on Ralph Atari, gets a move done on Ralph Atari. Storms is going to go for it next, I think, having a look at the outside line, which now gets a switch back onto the inside line into turn 4. He's still got his car there, still got a wheel on the inside, and in the end using a bit of a push pass, sort of getting through there, and in the end does get through up into then 3rd for him. So both the Haas driver of Cold Pillow and Sturm is on the podium. Ralph Atari been knocked off the podium, who now is going off the circuit as well for good measure. So ultimately, that isn't ideal. Tiny teammate Litz has gone out wide, almost running into the back of the Ferrari man there. So the Ferrari really struggling at the moment. Ralph Atari not having a happy race out there. And yeah, doesn't really look like he's, well, had a really good qualifying pace by the looks of it. But was that just, you know, one mega qualifying lap, and this race pace is hurting him maybe too much? Maybe he's hurting, or maybe his setup he's got on eating up too much of his tyres or whatnot. So yeah, Tiny is next going to be pressurizing him, and that is going to see cold tyres for the restart, perhaps. No, I don't think it'll be cold tyres, not at lap 8. Because, yeah, after lap 8, been now racing for 5 laps, to be fair, so I don't think it'll be cold tyres, unless I was from a few more minutes ago, but your comment only just came through now, so I'm a bit confused why you'd have cold tyres after almost 5 laps of racing here. But anyway, we're seeing now a Tiny go around the outside of Ralph Atari, and he's going to get the move done, and that's Tiny's first probably real target picked off in this race. And he's also got past also Storms for fourth as well. Third as well, sorry. Not fourth. Was fourth for AlphaTauri. But yeah. And Iron Kid somehow finds himself miraculously into fourth, as we see Kotos also going past. Kotos, obviously one of the more faster drivers, was obviously serving a qualifying ban, and yep, he is really on a charge here, as he is pretty much, well, did start down in, I think it was 15th, if I'm correct, is now up into the top 5. So that's Kotos really coming at both, well, the top 3 thick and fast. So it won't be long before we see him emerge onto the scene. And in fact, pretty sure he did win Tier2's race last time out, or was it Tier 1? One of the races he won last time out, when he reserved from a lower tier. From very, very far back it was, and yeah, he won pretty much by absolute country mile. In fact, it might have been the Tuesday tier I'm on about last time. Yeah, it would have been. But yeah, he did win very, very nicely, Kotos did, of what I recall. Pretty sure it was Kotos, could have been someone else. But yeah, these Wednesday lads are just such a cut above the rest when they do reserve, you know, for Tier 2 or whatnot. Obviously, they do or can reserve in Tier 2, which is fair enough, but yeah, he's really going to be arriving soon onto the scene and soon troubling rest of the field. So Hazard is re-emerging from the pits. He's going to come out down behind Storms in 12th, but ahead of AlphaTauri. So he's made up some ground there, because these drivers, AlphaTauri and Storms, were fighting for the top, certainly 5, top 6, top 7 sort of positions. Immediately they pick him off, but that certainly sees him made up ground, unless they've lost ground. Could be the opposite really here, because I'm pretty sure he was down in about 8th or 9th at the time they made their stops. So yeah, probably more likely they've lost a bit of ground, which ultimately would indicate or explain why they're where they are. So we'll have to see where they come out relative to probably Litz and relative to Owen, Limited Danny and Iron Kid, because right now I think that's who they'd be fighting. And ultimately it does look like they're probably gonna, well, looking at the mini-map at least, I'd say they probably would come out right now behind this group. Yeah, behind the group where Owen is at. So obviously Owen Way, or Wev, is currently 6th. I think, well, these lads are going through turn 9, and AlphaTauri and Storms are just out of turn 4. So just from my prediction there, or from what I believe, they're probably over 20 plus seconds behind at the moment, maybe around 25 seconds behind, somewhere in that region. So I'd say they're probably going to come out behind overall. In fact, I'm going to get up the gap to the leader. So, right, that would probably give us a bit of a better indication. So AlphaTauri and Storms are, yeah, literally they're 25 seconds behind than this group. So they've lost certainly time overall. So lap 12, looks like the gap has all settled out. So Limited Danny's got past Owen for 6th, and a bit of a gap for him to go and catch up to the back of Litz, who currently sits and locks out the final top 5 spot at the moment. So he'll be trying to catch Litz, but has a little bit of a wobble. He did out of turn 4, and that certainly puts him back into the path of Owen. Right now, Iron Kid and Owen trying to sort out their differences for P7 as Owen goes off the track. So that's going to let Owen come under pressure from Iron Kid then here. And that's certainly not going to be great news for him. Down this DRS straight though, is within the DRS. Iron Kid also using up that ERS and DRS at the same time. So is Owen trying to catch Limited Danny. Now, how powerful will that be? So here we go then. Limited Danny on the inside, defends the inside line and is able to remain ahead of the Alpine just for another lap then here as we head on to lap 7 of this race. Iron Kid right now is behind the pair of them, so Iron Kid couldn't capitalise off either of them and is still remaining in P8. Right now, it's one of probably the closest battles we got on the track as Protoss has picked off now Cold Pillow. Now, obviously, being on the hards, Kotos will be able to go longer into this race, probably to lap 19 or something. Maybe even longer than that, really. And yeah, poor, obviously, Kotos. Obviously, he will be gaining on the two cars ahead of him, who started on the harder compound. Tiny will be probably gaining, as we can see visually and from the timings, he'll be gaining on Vigo. So both of them are going to be gaining probably at similar rates on each other, Tiny and Kotos. Kotos will be gaining a couple of tenths, probably a lap on Tiny, and Tiny will be gaining a couple of tenths a lap on Vigo. So both of them will be gaining a couple of tenths a lap on the cars ahead. But that will see them probably merge onto the same bit of track at similar times. Obviously, it's going to be a bit roles reversed for the second stint of this race, I suspect. It'll be interesting to see what Tiny does, because Tiny is the driver who I think has the most to gain and the most to lose here, which is a bit of a, well, he's a little bit in a bit of a rock and a hard place. Does he try and extend to the softs and try and, get onto those softs? Would have to go to lap 20 in order to do so. Or does he try to go for a set of the mediums? Now, Vigo's in. Vigo has actually decided he wants to get rid of his softs after 14 laps. So he's coming into the pits. Now, I presume he's either going to go for the hards or mediums. I get the feeling probably hards be the better way to go here, but he is going to go for mediums. And he's opting to go for that strategy instead. So that is certainly a very interesting, option to go for the mediums instead of the hards. And that sees him with over 17 laps to do, or 18 laps to do. So it is a long stint on those mediums. It is doable, of course. Not saying it isn't doable. Obviously, when he does come out into the lead of the race, once again, he probably will have a big gap for the others to come and chase down. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure that I would have done that. I probably would have extended just a couple more laps if he could have done so. He did have about a 1.9 second advantage anyway, so I think if he had extended a couple more laps, got to then the mediums, that would have made a bit more calculated sense, in my humble opinion. But, with the strategy he's gone for, okay, we'll have to see, can he make it work? Limited Danny re-overtakes now Owen for 4th. Obviously, these two keep on swapping around every so often. Interestingly, Hazard and Ralph having both a bit of a ding-dong battle too, both swapping around positionally equally, and these two aren't, having or letting go of their positions easily. These two racing quite nicely and quite hard. with one another, which is good to see. Even though AlphaTauri started on pole, everything just sort of collapsed for him within the first half of this race. Nothing really gone right for him. Didn't really have the pace on the softs, and on the mediums isn't faring that much better either. Is seemingly struggling to just get any sort of solid pace there and consistency. More looks like the consistency than anything else. Just not, consistently doing it at the moment in terms of pace-wise. Certainly got speed, just not consistently showing the speed. So Ankid is in after 16 laps of his mediums. Now, let's see what tyres he goes for. And he's going for hards. So that, I suppose, makes sense. Go for that strategy. And he'll re-emerge behind Hazard, but he does have, obviously, significantly fresher tyres than the drivers ahead of him, and that will be key and crucial for this race. So, lap 17. We're still waiting on the top three to make a stop. Obviously, Vigo was one of the top three who has made a stop. I'm on about the top three currently on the track, which is Litz, Kotos, and Tiny. Interestingly, Kotos hasn't really made any material gains as of late, so Tiny showing really good pace on the tyres he's on and the strategy he's doing. No real gains or inroads made by the Williams driver now for the last few laps. That gap seems to have plateaued out around 2 seconds, but as I say that, it's just come under 1.9 seconds, so just dipped under that 2 second mark again. Al-Begduri with now the new fastest lap of the race, so that sees him getting probably an extra point. So lap 18 of the race, and obviously, well, on lap 18 now that we are, and still the top three going around and around. None of them hitting this lap. Vigo is now up into 4th, but every lap, obviously, these drivers continue to go, the more laps or more time they're losing. Right now, that gap is 13.2 seconds to the race leader, as you can see. So, Vigo really is gaining on Tiny, and Tiny will probably re-emerge. It's about a 20-second pit loss, so we'll re-emerge about 7 or 8 seconds off the lead at the moment with the way things are heading. Probably be even more by the time we get to the end of this lap. So I think Tiny surely has to be now committed to the softs, which I fear he probably is. So when will he try and come in? Will we see Litz come in sooner as well? That's, I suppose, the question that is poised. So probably from next lap or this lap, you probably can get your tyres to the end of the race then here. That's the ultimate truth. So Litz having a little bit of a moment. And that gap's now down to 12.3 seconds as of speaking this lap. So the gap between then Vigo and obviously the race leader is coming down all the time. Going a little bit further back, we've got Hazard on the back still of the Ferrari man of AlphaTauri. We'll have the DRS using up maybe also a bit of ERS too. Not at the moment, no. But obviously nonetheless is gaining with that DRS wide open. Has a little bit of a look into the braking zone of turn 1. But in the end doesn't do it and decides to remain ahead of the Ferrari driver just for a little bit longer. obviously does have fresher tyres, does have obviously a lap younger age in terms of the tyre at the moment. So his tyres will be wearing a little bit slower at the moment, or will have a little bit less wear probably they should have on them. It's a bit sad we can't see the tyre wear graphics, so you can't actually see how much wear the drivers actually have, which is a bit of a letdown, but overall it isn't too much of an issue. I suppose that might give us a bit too much insight, but would be great, I think, perspectively, just from a commentating view, to have. So Vigo is now up into the top 10, and we have seen now Tiny pit, and Tiny will re-emerge on those softs as predicted, and he is now going to have, well, about 10 seconds to chase down. So yeah, 10 seconds is the gap between Vigo and Tiny, which is a lot, really, when you consider all in all. Like, Tiny, I know he can probably, well, I can't remember who said it, I think it was Murray Walker. There's one thing in catching your rival, there's another thing overtaking your rival, and especially around this type of circuit, where usually track position is king. Whilst there is a couple of DRS zones, but sometimes they can almost feel not long enough due to the fact with the downforce levels that you run around here, and obviously the more downforce you have, the more drag there is on the car, yes, but ultimately, yeah, this circuit isn't really the best for overtaking. Track position is usually king around this circuit, and Kotos is in. And Kotos has gone for mediums, and that's a bit of a bold, interesting call. So Ralphie says, won't make it, my guess, Vigo wins. Yeah, I mean, potentially, but that gap between Vigo and, between Vigo and Tiny has come down by a fair amount this lap. So it is now down to 8.6. And with it down to 8.6, Tiny on the back of then Cold Pillow, who is now about to be overtaken. Obviously, does have much fresher softs, but did get a little bit delayed there, which ideally isn't ideal for the Mercedes driver. I do wonder why Kotos has gone for mediums and not obviously softs, but I guess if Kotos doesn't think softs can make it, then obviously what hope does Tiny have? I suppose that's the question. Dave agreeing with Ralphie, but we'll have to wait and see which one of these predictions is correct. Now, Limited Danny making a move on Iron Kid, or trying to make a move on Iron Kid, both on hards tyres. A little bit of a push off the circuit from each other overall. And Limited Danny does get through, but that one I think will be going to the stewards, no doubt. Did look like Limited Danny may have not just left Iron Kid a bit of space there. Not sure what you guys think of that. Just looked from my angle as if Limited Danny sort of drifted across onto Iron Kid's path, and hence they made a bit of contact, and then as Iron Kid kind of rejoined, sort of drifted back onto his path and almost spun Limited Danny around. So Ralphatari and Hazard have both actually made additional stops. Now Hazard's on softs, Ralphatari is on mediums now, so that's a bit of an interesting one. Both of them did come in. I know they did come in early, but would have been, well, could they have made their stops a little bit later? Storms is going to come in now. So he's opting to benefit under this virtual safety car. And Vigo's actually come back in. So Vigo's given up the race lead for a set of the softs, and yeah, there we go. So this race has already swung itself around. I didn't even actually notice that. That was almost a missed thing there from me. But yeah, Vigo is now on softs, and unfortunately, Litz has picked up a drive-through. Has Danny picked up a Tiny picked up a drive-through too? Let's have a quick look. Yes, both Mercedes men have picked up drive-through penalties. So, wow, that is their race is surely ruined a little bit, because now with those two having to serve drive-throughs, well, unfortunately they can't go to the end and appeal them drive-throughs, and because well, they would lose only 20 seconds if they could go to the end. Ultimately, if you're signing like 2 laps to the end of a race, and you get a drive-through, you only lose about 20 seconds if you don't serve it, so it's unserved penalty, and you might be able to appeal that, but obviously depending on your case. But yeah, both of them are going to have to serve a drive-throughs, therefore that will be unappealable, I think, then there. And that sees probably both of their races completely ruined, and now for Tiny, can he defend off maybe a quicker Haas driver of Cold Pillow for that final podium spot? Obviously, probably will get to the end, I think, on those. Well, we'll have to get to the end unless there's an additional safety car. It'll be interesting to see if Vigo can go and get this win or whether Kotos can hold off. Obviously, there isn't too much difference in terms of the tyre age between the Kotos's mediums and Vigo's softs, only about 2 laps within it. Obviously, for the first number of laps, I do expect that gap to come down, but towards lap 33, if that gap is not below, let's say, 2 seconds, I do think around lap 31-ish, then we will probably see Kotos win. So that'll be the key lap to probably watch out for. If Vigo is within that 2-second range before lap 31, then this is Vigo's to lose. But if not, I think Vigo has got a bit of work cut out for him too. Tiny then being chased down by Just Cold Pillow, then on a set of mediums, and you can see actually that gap has come down quite a bit within the last half a lap. He's now down to 1.6 seconds. I'm going to go back to the interval. Currently fastest lap is Vigo, unsurprisingly. Obviously is on the is on a fresh set of the softs. So yeah, for Just Cold Pillow, he's catching right now. Tiny, the Mercedes driver, did have obviously a drive-through. He did. Owen is in 5th at the moment. He's doing a good job out there too. Hazard now up into 9th. Ralph Attari in 7th. Lit has, I think, got a 5-second penalty. In fact, I will go through the penalties quickly again. So, yeah, Litz with 5 seconds. Limited Danny 3. Then Kosa on 3. Algari in 14th on 3. And then Allmouth is on 8 seconds at the moment. So those are your penalties as they stand. The drivers with penalties towards the back, besides Limited Danny and Lit, probably won't get affected by that, because Limited Danny would at the moment be dropping down into 12th, and Lit probably would drop down into 10th at the moment with the way things stack up in terms of the penalties at the moment then there. So Ralph Attari round the outside of Litz. Hazard is going to look at following him through, and Hazard does follow him through. Will have the outside line full turn 4 though, which might be a little bit worse, but we'll have to see which one comes off a bit better. And it looks like Hazard's come off turn 4 a bit better. They're still fighting it out into turn 5. Litz is still trying to fight on into turn 6 and 7, but in the end, as we get to turn 8 and up the hill into turn 9, Hazard comes out victorious then there. Didn't give up the position, kept his foot in the door, and is Litz going to come back at him into turn number, I believe that's 12 or 11, and does have a look, but we've now got a second virtual safety car then here, and will we see any more drivers opt to come in for another stop? And in fact, I think this is going to be elevated to a full course caution. It is a full course caution because I see a yellow dot emerging on the track. So within the final few laps of this race, we're going to have a final safety car. I believe it'll be a safety car. Still not saying safety car on my screen, but there is a safety car out. So I do hope that the safety car has been properly deployed and it's not a in-game glitch. Because obviously, yeah, safety car is out. Obviously, still saying virtual, as you can see on my screen at least, but obviously have to assume it is a proper safety car. So in a way, this is good news for at least Tiny, one of the Mercedes drivers. Now, I imagine both our race leaders come in now, and indeed they do. So both your top two are into the pit lane, and these two will probably go for a fresh set of softs. Now, Vigo did go for a set of softs. Obviously, Kotos probably, has he got, well, a fresh set of softs remaining? The answer probably to that is yes. So Vigo's got a completely, Kotos got a complete fresh set. And by the looks of it, Vigo's set is also completely fresh. So no, indifferences there between them two. Them two are absolutely fine then. Now, I'm wondering, has anyone else got fresh sets? By the looks of it, the answer to that is yes. Arbeid Duri's retired from the session. How has he done that? That looks a bit of an odd retirement. I think he's actually crashed coming into the pits. So, yeah, that's a bit of a misfortune error from, obviously, the Aston Martin driver of Arbeid Duri. And that's the second day in a row where Arbeid Duri's, you know, lucked out at the wrong time. Feel very, very sorry for him. Yesterday probably, you know, was an even worse, you know, sort of error from Arbeid Duri, because he was on course to probably win the race and then, you know, well, overtook under the safety car. Is now saying safety car, so I think it's absolutely fine, Ralphie. Don't think it's anything major. Just, you know, I always get concerned though on this game. You know, you never know. You know, when this game decides to break down, it breaks down, and yeah, I just never trust this game and its processes, if you know what I mean. Because so many times EA have let us down, and yeah, I mean, you just have to look at esports, really. Look at the mess and shambles that is in at the moment, really. That is in a complete, absolute shambles. Now, I'm not sure what the Alfa Romeo driver is trying to do. Obviously, I believe that'd be all mouth or Algery. I think it'd be all mouth, actually. Not sure if he's trying to unlap himself. Obviously, unfortunately, on the game, I don't believe it allows you to unlap. Which is a bit, obviously, unfortunate for him, meaning he's a bit of a, well, how can you put it nicely? He's a bit of a, don't want to say deadwood, or don't really know what the right word or analogy would be. In fact, it could be also Algery as well. Let's see. No, it is actually Algery. So, yeah, it's Algery, actually, not his teammate. Both of them are lapped, but yeah, both of the Alfa Romeos are, well, I suppose it's a bit of a fight they could have. If all mouth came in now, but I think it might be a bit too late, he could have put on a set of softs and tried to get his teammate, I suppose, but yeah. What I'm trying to say though, for them two, they are going to get ghosted immediately on the restart here, and for them, like, I guess they don't want to get in anyone's way positionally, because, or ruin anyone's race, because they're not going to gain anything much more out of it besides 13th and 14th. So for them to, it's just about finishing and making sure they don't do anything untoward here in this final safety car period. So, right, lap 29, still no safety car in. So Algary opting to pit again. I think he's just pitting to get out of the way of everyone else. Allmouth is obviously staying out. So he's obviously not going to pit again, he's decided. So we're going to have literally a sprint then here in the final 2 laps. And in a way, I kind of hate situations like this, personally, as especially when you're a driver, this is the worst of the worst situations, because whilst there's so much to gain, there is also so much to lose, which, you know, certainly from the driving point of view, isn't ideal. From the commentary point of view, and from a spectator's point of view, this is the best of the best. But from a driving point of view, this is the worst of the worst. Especially if you were in a good position. So just for instance, like, you know, just Colpillo, not sure if he'll be able to get that podium. Would love to see him on the podium, but I'm pretty sure he would have been also content with a top 4 equally, if you understand where I'm coming from, based on where he started. And maybe for Litz, this is an ideal thing, opportunity, because it really gives him time. But where will Kotos go? So Kotos back in the pack up a bit more, unlike what Ralph did on his restart at the start of lap 3. And Kotos has gone now, and in fact he's caught out Vigo quite nicely then there. And Vigo is going to come under pressure from Tiny then as we head towards turn 1. So Tiny on the outside, darts back across to the inside, but as we get to turn 1, Vigo just has enough straight line pace to defend off the Mercedes driver. So it is going to be just Colpillo then on the inside, coming under pressure from Storms, who will have the inside for turn 4. Storms on the inside, trying to get 4th place off then the Haas driver, and I think he's done it. In fact, he has. Did look like almost they came together, but I don't think there was any contact. Just think our game jumped a little bit there, a bit of a screen freeze on our end, so it's all good then there. But Storms is up into 4th. Ralph Attari is ahead, is behind in 5th, in the 6th, trying to get Colpillo as well. So who's going to end on the podium? I think the top 3 looking pretty locked out at the moment in terms of the way things are stacking up. Now, can Vigo remain ahead of Tiny for P2 and extend his lead in the championship? Obviously, is your championship leader, or can he even go get that race win away from Kotos? This is going to be the final opportunity he probably will have on this entire lap as we head into turn 1. Kotos is going to be safe, surely, from here on in. But it is Colpillo coming back at then Storms as we head up the hill into turn then 3 and 4. Ralph Attari having a look on the outside as well. Can Colpillo go the long way around? Colpillo hasn't come back into our picture of view, and in fact went on the outside. I think he went onto the marbles and lost all that time and is now off the circuit, and he's going to lose a lot of positions there. So Colpillo tumbling down the order, everyone else behind him gaining. Then into 4th he goes, then Storms is, and Tiny having a look around the outside. Obviously your championship leader currently in the standings. There should be no risk probably taken from Vigo here. In the end he falls back into 4th, but it's going to be Kotos who was untroubled by all of that behind him going on, and he's going to come around the final corner to claim the race victory in Tier 2 today. It's Kotos, your race winner, and taking a fastest lap for good measure. Tiny P2, Vigo in P3, Storms P4, Ralphatari across the line in 5th, Litz in P6, 7 is Hazard, 8th Owen, 9th is Limited Danny, Kosa in 10th, Iron Kid in 11th, Cole Pillow deciding to take a pit lane end to his race. Not sure why he's doing that, but he comes anywhere across the line in P12 or whatnot. And the two Alfa Romeos a lap down in 13th and 14th. Valkyrie ahead of his teammate then there obviously was on the softs, so no surprise there at all. And that is Tier 2. What a crazy end to that race, and plenty of action certainly throughout. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed Tier 2 today, and my driver of the day, of course, has to go to Kotos, the Williams man. Started obviously 15th, finished first, and I know obviously he's a Tier 3 driver, so obviously was reserving from a higher tier, and you can see that pace he has. My oh my, a 1:12.6, almost a second, well, half a second clear of the next best of the Vigo then there, and that is quite a statement from him. But yeah, go through your final finishing order. So Kotos P1, Taney in P2, Vigo P3, Storms P4, Ralph Fatari 5th after taking pole. Then Litz in 6th, Hazard 7th, Owen in 8th, Limited Danny 9th, and Coaster in 10th. Then outside the top 10, we have Iron Kid in 11th, Cold Pillow in 12th, Algary 13th, 14th is Allmouth, and he is your final finisher of today. And your non-finishers are Begduri, Mikey, and Vonsi in 4th. So Vonsi 4th. Vonsi takes the final non-finish in 17th, sorry. So yeah, those are your non-finishers nonetheless. Obviously, hope you've enjoyed today's stream. As I say, Kotos is my driver of the day. I'm not sure who your driver of the day is, but until tomorrow, I won't be back tomorrow. I'll be probably elsewhere. But until tomorrow, obviously there is a Tier 3 race tomorrow, which probably be commentated on by a different set of commentators or commentator. And until then, see you tomorrow for another race, and see you all guys next week, Monday, for Tier 1 again, and have a great weekend.